Bienvenidos, Ushamdid, and welcome University of Maryland Global Campus learners from the CMIT-456 Section 6380 course for the fall 2021 semester. This is the Cisco NetAcad Implementing Cisco Enterprise Advanced Routing and Services Version 8 course curriculum, or the ENARSI Version 8 course curriculum. And in this activity, we're going to be wrapping up our coverage of EIGRP by taking a look at Packet Tracer Activity 5.2.3, where we're going to be implementing EIGRP for both IPv4 and IPv6. Now, a quick note is that I will be doing up a roughly hour-long supplemental session on converting legacy 32-bit EIGRP configurations to named mode, and then I'll be going over a lot of the same things you see here, but we're going to be doing it in named mode, or the 64-bit mode, as it is commonly referred to. So let's go ahead and let's wrap up our EIGRP packet tracer activities. As you can see, we've got quite a bit going on here. If I was to click in there, we can see the entire topology. Well, it looks like we're going to probably be doing some summarization here. And remember, with EIGRP, one of the advantages of distance vector routing protocols like EIGRP is that I can summarize anywhere at any time for any reason. It's not like link state routing protocols where the summarization is taking place either on the area border router, the ABR, or the autonomous system boundary router, the ASBR. So IS to IS, or more notably what we're going to be looking at, which is OSPF. With OSPF, summarization can't just take place anywhere for any reason. It's got to be on the ASBR or the ABR, or you could run into unexpected results. So we have our addressing table over here to the right. We've got our IPv6 information also listed here. And so let's go ahead and we're just going to dive right into the requirements. So we're going to implement EIGRP for IPv4 enabled routers using AS1. We're going to use a single classful network address to advertise the loopback addresses. Now, that single classful network address is telling me that we're probably not going to be doing, it doesn't look like we're going to be doing summarization. We're just going to use a classful statement like 10.0.0.0/8 or 172.31.0.0/16, where it might be a little more interesting to do the summarization. You get a little practice with the summarization, but we'll see how that works. The wildcard mask we're going to be using is a /30. We're going to use the default passive interface method and only allow EIGRP updates out active EIGRP serial interfaces. All right, well, let's go ahead and let's dive in here on router 1. This is our EIGRP v4 side of the house. We'll go from user exec with the enable command into privilege exec. We'll get into global config, and let's first take a look here. Let's say do show IP interface brief. And we look here and you can see we've got loopbacks 8, 9, 10, and 11. And we also have the serial interface 0, 0, 0. Now remember, it's on that serial interface. That is the only interface on which we will not be doing a passive interface command. And again, we're going to be doing the default passive to start things off. Let's say show run pipe it to section router EIGRP. And let's start that with a do show run. And I'm just checking to make sure that we don't have some kind of a configuration that's already out here that might undermine what it is we're trying to accomplish. So let's go ahead. I'm going to set the EIGRP, oops, sorry. We're going to say router EIGRP1. I'm going to set the EIGRP router ID, and we're just going to set it to 1111 for router 1. And again, it's not a big deal that we set this because it doesn't look like we're doing redistribution. However, always a good practice to get that set. And it's interesting here, you can see that it wants that router ID of 1111 assigned to the IPv6 edge router, right? And interesting that we're at 5%. So I'm now rethinking this. As I looked over here, I'm rethinking whether or not I should do that. Let's see if it takes that 5% away. and it doesn't take the 5% away. So here's what I'll do. I'll just say EIGRP router ID, and I'll say 0001 for the IPv4 side of the house when we're not given specific values. At least I don't think we're being given specific values here. We may see that. All right, so let's go ahead and say passive interface default, meaning all interfaces are currently passive. So we would have to say no passive interface serial 000. Now let's get to the first step. Use a single classful network address to advertise our loopback interfaces. And that's going to look like that right there. Right? So if I say do show run and pipe it to section router EIGRP, you can see that that is actually going to do exactly what we need it to do. So use the wildcard mask to advertise the /30 networks between R1, R2, and IPv4 edge. So again, if I was to say do show IP interface brief, we can see there it's a 172.31.6.2, meaning if this is a /30, and we can confirm that by taking a look here, and there we go, and it is a /30. So I'm going to say network 172.31.6. Now remember, it's the network, right? It's the network ID that we're using here because we're now going to come back with 0003, which is the wildcard mask for that interface. So we've got our passive interface default set. We've got the no passive turned on. We've got our transit segment interface configured with a network statement. We've got a classful network statement. And let's go ahead and make sure we say, no auto summary. And again, if you say do show run pipe it to section router EIGRP, we should see that we don't, or what we should see is that the no auto summary command is not there because it is the default. And so I'm just looking over here real quickly. So configure a directly attached default route on IPv4 edge and propagate it into the updates. Configure the serial interfaces to send hellos. So interesting here, right? We're going to be tweaking that hello timer value, and we're going to make it 10 seconds. So R1 and R2, verifier. All right, just reading ahead here to make sure we're not doing anything odd. All right, so how do we do that, right? Well, we get into the interface. Let's come back over here. We get into the interface serial 000, and it's here where I can say we're going to say EIGRP, and it should be... And I'm actually drawing a blank right now. We should see... I'm actually drawing a blank right now on the hello timer values because it's not set in the... Or is it? Hold on one second. Router EIGRP1 and EIGRP, it's not set in here. Yeah, it's under the interface. Interface serial 000. And IP EIGRP, and it doesn't have it. And I'm wondering, in fact, let's take a quick look here. So I'm doubting, and let's get into conf T, and let's get into interface serial 000, and let's say IP EIGRP. No, so that's not it. EIGRP. And I'm really drawing a blank right now on this command. All right, well, I'm going to continue to work through the activity. I'm going to circle back because I'm literally drawing a blank right now on changing the hello interval, which I swear is done under the interface. And let me make sure it's just not hello. It can't be. And that is really odd that I'm, again, drawing a blank there. So happens sometimes. Senior moment. We'll circle back. And so let's go ahead and get onto the IPv4 edge router. And let's do the configuration that's going to be required here. So we'll say show run pipe it to section router EIGRP. And you'll notice there's no EIGRP config section. So let's get into global config. And let's go ahead and say router EIGRP1. We're going to do a passive interface default. And let's say do show IP interface brief. So we can see that we've got two interfaces there that go out to the two router serial 000. So no passive interface serial 000. Remember, the extra zeros are free when you're doing that. And then no passive interface serial 001. Let me set the EIGRP router ID to 0002. And now we're down to the network statements. And so I'm going to say redistribute static. I'll be curious to see do show run section router EIGRP. And what I'm checking for here is, okay, good. So the redistribute static statement's in there, even though I do not have a static route defined, because I'm going to take care of it here and then we'll go out and we'll do the static route here in just a second. So configure a directly attached default route on IPv4 edge and propagate it into the EIGRP updates, and that's what we're going to be doing here shortly. But first, let's get the network statements in here. For the 172.31.6.0.0003, and now we should see an adjacency come up, and we do. And now let's get the network 10.10.8.0.0003, and this is going to be for the adjacency between or the neighbor peering between the IPv4 edge and router 2. We haven't configured router 2 yet, but we will circle back and get that knocked out here shortly. So now let's exit out and let's go ahead and say IP route, and we'll do the quad zeros. And what's it asking us to do here? Configure directly, so directly attached, meaning it's going to be going out serial 010. Now, again, you see this message here, default route without gateway. If not a point-to-point interface may impact performance. Well, this is a serial point-to-point interface, so there will be no performance impact here. All right, so that takes care of that static default, and we should see over here now, if I was to save my config, we'll say write mem, and again, we're going to come back to that, the hello timer, which is still bothering me. We're going to say show IP route EIGRP, and for whatever reason in Packet Tracer 8.0, it dumps the default at the end of the last line. And I've seen this in multiple activities. Even if I stretch this way out, it doesn't put it on its own line. It's putting it at the end of the last line, making it very difficult to spot, especially when you've got more than one line here. So as you can see, there is the default external EIGRP route with an administrative distance of 170. There is my computed distance. That is not the feasible distance. That's our computed distance. And so we have the information that we need there. Let's come down to router 2 and let's work through this. We'll go from user exec to privilege exec into global config, do show IP interface brief. We're going to say do show run, pipe it to section router EIGRP. Again, I'm just making sure that there is no lingering EIGRP configuration around here. We're going to say EIGRP router ID 0002, and now this is also bringing back the memory here, router EIGRP 1, and so we're going to set this to be EIGRP router ID 0003. And again, it's got to go down and come back up because we've changed that router ID. So now we change the router ID here. We're going to say passive interface default. We're going to say no passive interface serial 001. I'm just making sure that's right. And then we're going to throw a network statement in here for the 10.10.8.0.0003. And now we should see an adjacency come up here between IPv4 edge and router 2. And let's also go ahead and put that classful network statement in here, which is network 10.0.0.0, which now has me wondering, let's make sure here, show run, pipe it to section, router EIGRP. I just want to make sure that I used... Yeah, no, so put the wrong classful statement in here. Router EIGRP1. We're all over the place here. Network 10.0.0.0. It should be 172.31.0.0. There we go. So I apologize for that. All right, and hopefully you caught that, and hopefully you were yelling at the screen, no, that's not the right command. All right, so now we're advertising the loopbacks off of router number 2. So let's go ahead and save our config here. And let's say show IP route EIGRP. And there are all of the loopback addresses, those 172.31s that are coming off of router 1. And if I come over here to router 1, whoops. If I come over here to router 1, I should be able to say show IP route EIGRP, and we should see all those 10 dot addresses. And we do, and we see the default. Again, here on router 2, we do not see the default yet, although we should. And let me make sure here. Let's make sure. Let me do a write mem. And I'm going to reload the IPv4 edge, because the router ID that I had mistakenly put on the IPv4 edge should have been for 0002. Probably should have put that on router 2, which we fixed. But let's make sure. Show run pipe section router EIGRP. And you can see we wanted that EIGRP router ID to be 0003. You can see the adjacencies have both come up. The redistribute static statement is there. So here on router 2, now we see, and you'll notice it puts it here on its own line. If I come up here to router 1, let's see what we see here. Yeah, it's still putting it at the end of the line. But the important thing is we've got the default router. We have the default route. So I think we are good here. So verify that R1 and R2 can ping the IPv4 server. And the IPv4 server, we've got the address up there. So let's come on to router 1 and let's say ping 64.100.1.10. And we'll jump onto router 2 and we'll get the ping command going, 64.100.1.10. So there's connectivity there from router 2, connectivity from router 1. So everything looks good. The activity's at 34%. And again, this lingering, and hold on, is it IP? It's really bothering me here. Int serial 000, IP. I swear I thought it was IP. Oh, hello. Tell me it's not hello interval. EIG, there it is. IP hello. For some reason I was thinking it was IP EIGRP. IP hello interval EIGRP. We're going to set it to 10. Now, by default, the dead interval is 3 times the hello interval, right? And so how can we see that? I can say do show IP EIGRP neighbor. And here you can see the hold time. Well, that's what we've got. And it looks like it's still, even though I set it to 10, it doesn't look like it looks like it's still going in increments of 5. And let's make sure here, do show run on that serial interface. And it's not there. Let me make sure I'm in the right interface here. So interface serial 000, IP, hello interval, EIGRP, did I leave out? Oh, the autonomous system number is what I left out, sorry. AS1 and then 10. There we go. Now we're going to see what we're expecting to see when I say do show IP EIGRP neighbor. And we should see that hold time. Yeah, for some reason the hold time is sitting there. Do show run, and it should. Yeah, so we've got it right. IP hello interval EIGRP for autonomous system 1 for 10 seconds. So let's go ahead and set that over here as well. And this is going to be on show IP interface brief. And this is serial 001. Interface serial 001. And let's say IP hello interval EIGRP 1 and set it to 10 seconds. And again, we need to do the same thing on both of the interfaces on the edge router. So interface serial 000, IP hello interval EIGRP 110 and interface serial 001. Hit the up arrow, and we are at 50%, and that's where we were missing that 50%. So let's save our configs on the IPv4 side here, and I apologize, struggling a little bit here this morning, and let's get those saved off. And so we're at 50%, and that means that the last 50% we're looking for is going to be over here on our IPv6 configuration. So we're going to implement EIGRP for IPv6 on the IPv6 enabled routers using AS1. So now we're being given the router ID value for all 3 of those routers. right? So we're going to start on the edge router here. I think lesson learned, instead of going from 1 to the edge to 2, let's start on the edge. Let's get the edge fired up here. Let's get into global config. And let's first say do show run pipe section router EIGRP. Now, remember, if you say IPv6 router EIGRP1, you're probably going to get an error message if this is a router where you have not configured IPv6 unicast routing. So remember, we need to say IPv6 unicast routing, and then I need to come back with the IPv6 router EIGRP1 command. Now, is it asking for passive interfaces? It doesn't look like it is, but always a good idea. Always a good idea. So we're going to say passive interface default. Let's say do show IP interface brief. Do show IPv6 interface brief. And we're looking here at the networks. And it's got to be that router 3 is A001, and this is A001, and then cafe is going to be out to the internet. All right, so we're going to say no passive interface serial 000, and then no passive interface serial 001. We're going to set the EIGRP router ID to quad 1s, which I think is interesting out here for the IPv6 edge router. And it looks like we're going to configure a directly attached default route. So we're still going to have to do redistribute static, right? So we're going to need that. And I think that is it. All right. So again, for the global configuration stanza, do show run, pipe it to section, router, EIGRP. You can see that it is shut down. So we want to make sure we say no shut, but our passive interface looks good. The router ID is good. Redistribute static is good. And the no passive interface commands are good. Remember, with IPv6 for EIGRP or EIGRPv6, there are no network statements, right? We go under the interface to make those changes. So the two interfaces we want to start the EIGRP for IPv6 process on are serials 000, where we're going to say IPv6 EIGRP1. And then I can go into serial 001 and run that same command. So what if I say do show IPv6 protocols, right? So here we can see the interfaces on which the EIGRP process has been enabled, right? And that's a quick way to take a look and to check that. So are we feeling pretty good about the configuration here? We are. Let's remember, we need that static IPv6 default route. So, and it's going to be directly connected. So IPv6 route :/0. I really like the IPv6 version of the default instead of the quad zeros. And it's going to be directly attached. And that's going to go out serial 010. All right, so our edge is configured and we feel good about that. Let's come over here to router 3. And let's get from user exec into privilege exec into global config. And again, do show run, pipe it to section, router EIGRP. Let's just make sure there's no EIGRP config. IPv6 unicast routing, IPv6 router EIGRP1. So literally, instead of saying router EIGRP1, we say IPv6 router EIGRP1. We're going to say passive interface default. We're going to set the EIGRP router ID to the 3333. And we're going to have to no passive some interfaces here. So do show IP interface brief. And do show IPv6, kind of in the IPv4 frame mindset there. And it's going to be, should be serial 000. So no passive interface serial 000. So that looks good. And my guess is it's going to be shut down, do show run, pipe it to section router EIGRP. And it is, so we want to say no shut. Now, on routers 3 and 4, I'm looking at those loopback interfaces, and those have got to be advertised, is my guess. Now, I'm reading this. Default router. Yeah, so I'm reading this, and the EIGRP for IPv6 section does not say to advertise those loopbacks. But let's see if I say IPv6 EIGRP1, if we get a point. We get 2 points. So I don't see it saying to advertise the loopback addresses. Oh, okay. The verification at the end, though, is so they're expecting you to infer here that if you need to be able to ping every loopback address. And so if that's the case, then every loopback address needs to be advertised. Interface loopback 2, interface loopback 3, and and that's going to be it there. So then let's go ahead and get into interface serial 00 and run that same command to bring the adjacency up between router IPv6 edge and router 3. So what about a show IPv6 route? Right? Well, we saw it just kind of scurried by there. There is the default IPv6 route, right? So from router 3, I should right now be able to ping 2001 DB8 cafe 1000 A. And we can. So I can get out through the IPv6 edge router to the internet, to the server, and it can get back to me. So let's go ahead and let's finish up here on router 4. We've got about 19 points that are hanging out there. We'll get into global config, IPv6 unicast routing, do show run pipe section router EIGRP, no EIGRP configured, so IPv6 router EIGRP1, passive interface default, EIGRP router ID is going to be 4444. Again, there are no network statements here. And let's check and see, do show IP interface, IPv6, interface brief. And let's see what interface it's using. And of course, it's not serial 000, it's 001. So no passive interface serial 001. What does our section look like? Let's go ahead and say no shut because we're confident that it is shut down. Do show run, pipe it to section router EIGRP. So that looks pretty good right there. Now we need to get into interface loopback 8 and say IPv6, EIGRP1, interface loopback 9, and we can just up arrow twice, interface loopback 10, up arrow twice, interface loopback 11, up arrow twice, and then finally serial 001. We get our adjacency. Let's save our config. And let's go ahead and say show IPv6 route. Now, I would love to be able to say show IPv6 route EIGRP, but we can't do that with packet tracer. So show IPv6 route. There's our default. And here are all of those loopback addresses and segments that we're learning via EIGRP. And you can see them right there. The A000, A100, A200, A300/72s, right? Because you can see all of those in there. And then the transit network statement, it looks like. And so we've got everything in there. We're at 100%. So the final test is let's ping one of the loopbacks from router 4 here, or we'll ping one of the loopbacks from router 4, but we're going to ping a loopback that's on router 3 just to confirm 2001 DB8 1:1:A000:1. And we've got connectivity. All right, so with the exception of a rocky start over here on router 1 and router 2, first recording of the day, that's going to be my excuse anyway. So again, sometimes that happens where you're looking at things and you see one thing, you make a misconfiguration there. So again, that is going to do it for Packet Tracer Activity 5.2.3, where we implemented EIGRP for IPv4 and for IPv6. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you've got any questions. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video.